be a good one. If you're new to what it is that we do over here, this is Mineral Ministries, and we go digging for gems, right? We open up the Bible, we go through the New Testament, we go through the Old Testament, and we go through the New Testament. All right, so we're live over on YouTube as well. Let me get that thing situated over there. Shout out to the YouTube family. Peace, love, and light. Welcome back to another episode. Once again, this is Mineral Ministries. I am your host, Minister Marlin, right? Oh, no, 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 no. I was, let me clarify. I'm not saying that I was born today on 7/5. I'm saying that I was born in 1975. So today is titled 7/5. You know what I mean? And we're gonna deal with some 7/5 energies and things of that nature. Oh, my computer's moving at snail pace. God damn. Yo, YouTube family, bear with me. I gotta restart this computer. Shit is moving crazy. And I know I should have did this before, but Yeah. Okay, we back on YouTube. Thank you to the YouTube family for being patient. Please forgive me. I had to restart this computer because it was lagging. It was lacking. It was lagging. So now we're back. Um, we got a little bit more bandwidth speed, and we're gonna hit this thing with no breaks. Right. So I was telling the family earlier, I was at odds. I didn't know what to name today's presentation. There's so much going on. You know, uh, there's a lot going on. You know what I'm saying? And then ultimately, as I was prepping my thumbnail for today's presentation, I settled on the title was free because I think that that's a resounding conversation. My timeline was flooded yesterday, and I'll make a reference to a cosmic transit that we're going through, and it's called Chiron and Taurus. And if anybody has seen me in the last 2 weeks, speaking publicly, this is something that I have consistently spoken about. Chiron and Taurus. So what is Chiron? Chiron is one of the outer asteroids. It's not necessarily a planet, but you know, is considered in the astrological pantheon. Chiron represents wounds, right? Taurus and Chiron just left Aries. So if you can see, like in the last 10 plus years, our people have been dealing with the wounds to Aries. Aries is your self-identity. That's your I am, right? That's how you see yourself. That's how you identify it with yourself. That's your ancestral lineage. You know what I'm saying? All of these things is considered to be Aries energy. Aries is also the competitor, competition, right? Like Olympians, athletes, and things of that nature. That's all Chiron. I mean, that's all Aries. But now we are in Chiron is in Taurus. So it is a pantheon of things that Taurus governs as well. Taurus governs values, right? So wounds to our values, wounds to our value systems. Those conversations have been consistent across the zeitgeist and, the melanated spectrum of social media, especially with the increased conversation around Carisha's song, Spin That, and what people are saying, the glamorization of criminalization of our people. Um, and then it's about to be a Hove summer, right? So you're about to be reminded of the wounds to our values, right? Taurus also represents finances, but not like pocket change, institutional money. This country is going through a financial shift. It's going from the dollar to a digital dollar. The dollar's not dead. They're actually creating a dollar 2.0. They're creating a 2 for $1. It's no longer dollar for dollar. They're creating a $2 for one type of system with the digital, right? The digital dollar is going to be able to get them $2 instead of $1. So they might have taken this penny out of circulation, but this is a $2 system. I'll explain at another time, right? Chiron and Taurus is wounds to resources. Look at a country like Venezuela, right? Wounds to their resources oil. The oil resources have been wounded, right? They've been taken over. They have been commercialized and colonized, right? And then they had an earthquake like 2 days after Chiron went into Taurus. Wounds to the land, okay? Because Taurus also represents Earth, not just Earth resources, but the physicality of Earth, right? Taurus is represented by the cow, by Het Heru. Het Heru, or the cow as a motif in ancient religion or ancient sciences. The cow represents matter, material. She got 4 stomachs. You know what I'm saying? She gives like no other animal gives. Okay. So these are the things that are represented by Taurus. Taurus also governs the throat. So Taurus deals with communication, open communication. Chiron and Taurus, wounds to our communication, wounds to our ability to express ourselves. We are living in an entrenched surveillance state. and people they're going to have to pay for their expression. They're going to have to pay for their communication, right? And that pay, like, with pennies, but pay by way of being penalized for the things that they say and how they say it, right? All of these things are in play at the moment. You know what I'm saying? Mars and Neptune at 4 degrees Aries deals with not just the spiritual vision of a thing, but also the inspired action, right? So this strong in this weekend, there's things that you might be thinking, but you also are being, it's recommended that you get to, you get active on the things that you have been thinking or that's been coming across your table, right? Mars and Pluto, Mars trining Pluto in Aquarius in 4 degrees. That deals with, you need to move on these things, but don't crash out. Don't do a push icy, right? It's not recommended that you do crash out energy. Like we were prompted yesterday by seeing white supremacists walking through the streets of Washington, D.C. It's a good thing that nobody crashed out, right? Because they were dangling. They were prompting us to respond, right? They were looking for a response in a way in which they wanted somebody to crash out. It's good that we didn't see anybody crashing out necessarily, right? But instead, the refusal to give them that energy, they crashed out on them on their own. We're being prompted in a lot of ways. Um, Seeing what they did to Jalen Brown, the fact that he didn't crash out in response, that's an admirable thing as well, right? So we're being engaged as a people to respond and to crash out. We're keeping our cool, which shows me that we're cosmically aligned. And a lot of people that said that they're receiving downloads and they're receiving channels and resets, kudos to you. Um, Even though I said these transits speak about being active, you still got to be still to get the channel, to get the download, to get the instructions, and then you move strategically. You move with a wise dome. You know what I'm saying? This ain't the time to be jumping out there. I saw footage just earlier this rising of WAC 100 coming at Jabari and Sinetta. And me and Jabari have had our differences, but I don't dislike Jabari. Um, I think he's a magnificent scholar and orator. We just see things different. But to see him in that situation with WAC 100 and WAC 100 losing his cool, right? And blowing his gasket and blowing his top, but Jabari keeping his cool and not falling for that. Again, there's some epic examples of what we can see in terms of emotional maturity, emotional intelligence. And to me, when I see that wholesale on us as a people, that means that we're graduating, especially a segment of our society, because everybody's not gonna make it. Some people have to present the contrast. It's needed and it's necessary. Yes, life is replete right now with symbolism, and we have to be symbol literate. Um, we are in Cancer season. Cancer season denotes the fact that us as a people, we fall under the sign of Cancer. Cancer is the sign of emotions. It's the sign of the home. It's the sign of the mother. And it's a water sign, right? But Cancer also is the place in the cosmos and our constellations where the souls come through. Cancer is in alignment to Big Mama Sirius, which is in perfect alignment. The heliocal rising of Sirius is on us. I saw it last night when I went outside. I was hearing so many fireworks. And I said, I'm normally not into that unless I'm like at an event and I'll just stop and look. But I know what it does to the cosmos. And the two times, check this out, y'all. The two times this Sirius, which is Big Mama. I know everybody got a mama out there. You got a grandmama? You got a great grandmama? What about great grandmama Million X? Like great 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 great, like, you know, your cosmic folks, the cosmic mama that puts you in her bosom, right? Sirius as a constellation is a serious constellation, and they say that's where the souls come from. And this was before religion. No disrespect to nobody's stuff, but y'all got to take a back seat to the science of the cosmos, right? When Big Mama show up, she shows up on 12/31, which is New Year's Eve, and she shows up on July the 4th, strong end. On both occasions when she shows up, right, her sons and her daughters are shooting fireworks at her or guns. And the result the next day is a sky full of sulfur and very bad air. And normally it rains right after that because they have to clear the air out of all of the smoke. So while people are in a very celebratory state, you know, I always have a tendency to lean towards what is it doing to nature before I put fun in front of it. And that's not me being a Debbie Downer. I'm just saying I am tethered and connected to my environment, to my ecosystem, to nature. And before I do something, I'm like, what's the energetic footprint? What's the physical footprint that it's gonna have on my surroundings for a moment of pleasure? What's the long lasting effect? So, I say all that to say that I went outside and I heard fireworks, but I didn't see none. But I did see Sirius, and it was the brightest star in the sky. It was the only star in the sky, matter of fact, because it was so much smoke in the sky that I was not able to see any stars. But I saw Sirius, and it was low, and it was super bright. And I felt so comforted that I went back in the house, and I just got into my thoughts. You know what I'm saying? I just started getting into my downloads. And that's not to take anything away from anybody else who was being festive. Um, it's just the way that it is situated and it's settled. Yeah, it and this is interesting. I'm, you know, yeah, shout out. So shout out to the Cancers. I have super respect for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Because Cancer is the keystone, masonically speaking. On the top, you got the twin pillars and you got the royal arch, and the arch degree is Cancer, right? Which is what they put right in the center. And Cancer's with a beehive cluster. M44 is called the beehive cluster. And this is again the souls descend into this earth. They come from Sirius through Cancer, and they get here through Earth, and they exit through Capricorn. So you got the Tropic of Cancer, and you got the Tropic of Cancer Capricorn, both set at 23.5 degrees. That's the equatorial line. When you add up 23.5 two times, you get 47. So 47 is a very strategic and main number in masonry. It's the Euclid problem, right? And masonry is built around these mathematics. So we got our 47th president right now, who just so happens to be sitting in the seat when the 250th celebration comes around. Lightning hit the Washington Monument. Lightning hit the Brooklyn Bridge. There was lightning storms all over the place. And I just wanted to say that, yeah, I noticed, and this is just an observation, and this happened in May, and it happened on Friday, right? I was in an interview in May in Atlanta, and it just started, the sky opened up, and it started storming in a way in which I had not been used to, like, because it was a short amount of time, but it was raining cats and dog, like like the sky broke. That happened in May. And ironically, while it was happening in Atlanta, simultaneously, it was doing the same thing in New York. It was doing the same thing in New York, literally at the same time. I witnessed that, and it flooded New York, right? It did the same thing on Friday, because at the same time that the tornado was ripping through Coney Island, right, or whatever that was, it's the same time that the sky broke here in Atlanta Friday night. It was around 7 something, because I remember it's when the sky was twilighting, and it came through, like, at least where I'm at, it was crazy. It was aggressive. It was violent. They was tearing it up. You know what I'm saying? I want to begin today's presentation with making an acknowledgement of a good friend of mine, a brother named Mansa. Now, this is not the Mansa that, from, this is not Cheyenne. This is not Mansa from um, Marrakesh Society. This is another brother named Mansa, ironically, who was a liberator in the Moorish movement, who did monumental things. You may not know his name. There's a lot of people who work in private that are not in the public to get a lot of things done. And his brother was a giant in the movement. His brother was Colossus. This brother has done things that are magnanimous, and his brother transitioned unexpectedly the other day, which is a wound to the heart. Chiron and Taurus, right? Us watching Farrakhan, the master teacher, at the janazah of Mother Khadija, Chiron and Taurus, right? Our brother Farrakhan is a Taurus. Chiron is wounds. We saw a Taurus wounded, and what? It complicated the way that he was delivering through the throat his communication. He said that this is the toughest day of his life, but he still was able to speak, and what he said was profound, right? So, and then Jupiter went into Leo the same day. And what is Jupiter in Leo? Leo is a sign for the heart, and Jupiter is the expansive, magnanimous planet. So I'm asking, as a family, that we send a magnetic flood of love to the heart of Minister Farrakhan. I also want to create a petition where we apologize to the elder before he makes transition, or we demand an apology to Minister Louis Farrakhan from mainstream media, from our Black leadership, from all of the people who abandoned him, as he told his story about how being canceled impacted his family, and the weight of that falls on the shoulders of the people that you don't see to uphold the ones that you do see, the so-called giants that get in front of the camera. Their strength is the women that are behind them, the wind beneath their wings. And these women receive the blunt of the trauma when the person that's publicized is attacked, right? So the Farrakhan being the social figure, the one that we see, um, the head of the nation, the mouthpiece for the messenger, and all of these things, right? We don't understand that when they get attacked, okay, it affects the family, and the matriarch of the family who's holding things up and holding things together, right? They have to bear the brunt of holding things together, because it's very traumatic, right? People don't understand the energy shifts that happen when you get canceled. They don't understand the financial dips that happen when you get canceled, right? They don't know what sort of mental state that puts somebody in when you're being ostracized, and the very people who you're sacrificing for turn their backs on you. And then the wives have to sit there and watch you at your most vulnerable point, right? And say, why are you being this strong for the people? We need the strength for the family. But Minister Farrakhan held the line. And everything that we criticize Minister Farrakhan for, right, is commonplace on the internet right now. It's commonplace on the internet. Everybody's saying it, and there's receipts attached to it. So can we uncancel Minister Farrakhan? Can we give him back his social media accounts? And can we apologize as a community for not shielding, right, his right as a tourist to speak freely, regardless of what he had to say? Because there's so many people out here saying the most disrespectful ish. And and the majority of what's being said is not backed up by facts. Okay. Somebody said, Blue, quick question, what is your thoughts on these new age self-proclaimed scholars purposely still using the word black to identify the melanated diaspora? I have more issues with the people that are saying African American, if you want to be clear. And again, these are conversations that have hamstringed the community for more than 15 years at this point. And there is there's validity in claims that are being made about us being denationalized, utilizing that label, right? But it's the argument around it has stifled us more so than I think what people are saying, yo, because you call yourself this is what it is. I'm like, our people, not all of them, but if you the Moors were charged with uplifting fallen humanity. I put a clip up yesterday or the other day of mental illness in Atlanta. Humanity has fallen. Melanated humanity, a large percentage are on their backs. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we got to call it what it is and not call it what it's not. You know what I'm saying? And there's so much confusion that goes into, like, somebody needs CPR, and then you telling me, nah, they call themselves black. You just gotta hold up. They gotta say that they're Moors. I'm like, bro, that brother, they in a critical state right now, and they need relief as is. When you exhibit the value to them, maybe then they might want to level up to what it is that you're saying that you represent. But the word black is connotated and connected to our struggle for so long, and people have spilled blood over that sacrifice for our people. I think that it's a smack in the face to turn around and tell somebody that you don't rock with them because of how they identify themselves, and this is all they've known. But here you go telling them different. Give them an opportunity to process the information before you trying to cancel them, right? So it's like it's the same thing that how people are very offsetting to this concept of Pan-African, or I'm like, do you know how them people have sacrificed? Do you know what these liberations have entailed? Do you know the history that goes into the Pan-African movement as it connects diasporically? Are you fucking crazy? Are you just gonna throw that out because you have an issue with identifying with what people say as African? And that don't mean that you can't go into your indigenous bag. That don't mean that you can't go into your, you know, melanated people was from here bag. Granted, but the cover of protection that we should provide should be for our people, because and our people is our people, nigga. I don't have to identify who our people is, right? Because when so-called African slaves was running to the South and they was getting to Florida and they were being embraced by maroon societies, they comprised of all of our people, the people who were indigenously from here, right? People from the Caribbean, people who came on boats, right? And we had one op, and it was the colonizer. When does that change? I refuse to get caught up in these straw man arguments about, yeah, you call yourself this, I can't rock with you, and you call yourself that because I can't rock with you. No, do you bleed like I bleed, and inside of that blood, at some point, ancestrally, we connect, even if we traded and did business with one another. Right? And if we do have conflict, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm gonna be able to feel that energetically. Um, but I've had more issues with niggers than I have with black folk, and there's a difference. So let's get into this, right? This is Mineral Ministries, along with Lion Gates Ministries, and we are non-denominational, mostly conversational, sometimes confrontational, and we go through scripture utilizing the Gregorian calendar date. Today is 7/5. So we're going to go through Old Testament and New Testament. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me not lose my footing. I just wanted to add something additional. When I was looking at Cape Verde, I felt like I was from Cape Verde, right? Every time I see my people triumphant, right? And the triumph is fighting against the colonizer, right? Regardless of what we consider to be a win. I've never not seen myself in the face and the spirit of my people who are fighting for dignity, you know what I'm saying? And fighting for a sense of self. I don't separate myself from that. And I don't have enough traumatic experiences, where I'm like, yeah, this person, I can't get a job because of them. I can't get this because of that. I don't have those experiences. I don't have hate in my heart for people who look like me. You know what I mean? And I grew up in a situation where we were cannibalizing one another. I was surrounded by people who hated themselves, and they hated people who looked like them. And you know what I did? I came into the mix at the age of 14, and I said, why you don't redirect that hate somewhere else? You know who's responsible for your oppression? Or you can't make rent, or your mama don't got, food in the fridge. And I wasn't race baiting. I just had to give them history lessons because they was cannibalizing one another. They was eating themselves. And it's the same energy that they was violently and viciously attacking Haitians and Africans and anyone who they thought was foreign. This is in 1988, 1989, right? Yeah, I'm not my brother. So you can't, like, if you're hearing sentiments of mine and they are different than somebody that looks like me that you heard, I'm not my brother. You know what I'm saying? We're 180 degrees different, and on some things 360 degrees. Okay, clearly, and rightfully so. Okay, I don't follow nobody else in terms of formulating a thought. I'm very independent of how I see the world. I've always led myself with how I see things, and I move on that, and then everyone else seems to follow. At some point, they catch on. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna continue to lead in that regard. I lead with my heart. I love my people diasporically in all 6 zones that you find us at. You know what I'm saying? I don't separate. I don't separate, you know? So yes, let's start in Genesis 7:5. Okay. And let's see what the energy of the day conveys to us. Entering the ark. Okay. So people is getting on the ark. Side note, right? Side note, and side note that collapses on both notes, and we're gonna set a stage up, then we're gonna pivot from there. There was a Ghanaian prophet who famously said he had to build an ark because the flood was coming. Now, I could relate. Right? Because last year on June 28th, when I was on Stone Mountain and we were doing our hike and our demonstration on the mountain, the very last thing that I left the people with is I said, Spirit said that it's time to build the ark. Now, was that physically building the ark? No, it wasn't. I don't think that it meant physically building the ark. It meant metaphorically that it's time to build the ark because the flood is coming. A few days later, which would have been last year, July 4th, a flood came through Texas and washed up Camp Mystic. This was around the same time that the Christian nationalists were calling us mystics because we went on Crystal Mountain and claimed it as our own and cut the energy cord that the KKK has up there on Stone Mountain. So they was attempting to attack us, right? And they was calling us mystics. And our own people was attacking us. Let's be clear. Before the Christian nationalists got on it, before Charlie Kirk and them got on it, our own people was doing it. Pause, right? They were attacking us for peacefully demonstrating and conjuring a spirit of peace over the city of Atlanta to protect our children. They was attacking that. So when I was on the mountain and I was getting off, Spirit, I think I read the last passage that I read. It was about building an ark, right? Because peace family, it was about building an ark because it said that the floods were coming. I didn't think that they physically meant build the ark. They more so were speaking about metaphorically building the ark because there were some things that was coming down the pipeline. As we can see, right? As we can see, those things actually came. So building an ark, metaphorically speaking, is saying that, yo, take your people over here so you don't have to be subject to this ish over here. Or also building an ark could also mean it's time to do for self. It's time to start planting food. It's time to start securing your own water. Yeah, it's time to separate, right, from the BS, right? There was a prophet in Ghana who took his download because he got it around the same time. It was a prophet from Ghana who got the download, and he took it literal. So he started building arks, right? And then he said that the flood was going to come on December 25th of last year. Now, I also thought that he was on to something because 3R Atlas showed up on June 30th, and it was dropping a lot of hydrogen in the atmosphere. Okay. So I thought after December 21st, when it made its closest appearance to Earth, I thought that it was going to bring floods as well. I thought that it physically was going to create a cascade of flooding on this planet. So it didn't happen in Ghana. And yeah, I think that, yeah, homie, he pulled out in the bins and stuff. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they were saying at the time, right? But they was on his helmet and they was getting at him. You know what I mean? And he shifted his prediction. He's like, I think that the floods is coming. You know, God told me the floods is coming later. Ironically, this past week, the floods finally came to Ghana, right? And I don't know if that's something that we should be celebrating. I'm just acknowledging the fact that sometimes a person's prophecies might, have to catch up with time. Sometimes they might not be pinpoint accurate with the particular timing, but I'll be damned if they don't eventually come true. You know what I'm saying? So sending prayers to the family all across the diaspora that are dealing with insurmountable weather conditions or inclemental weather, especially the flooding, right? There's a lot going on. We can see that even these World Cup games coincide with these weather anomalies. You know what I'm saying? All of the teams that are engaged and are active on that field, what they call the pitch, 11v11, we can see that those teams, countries are being impacted in ways in which are very unnatural. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to the Ghanaian prophet that told his people to build the ark, because they really could have used them arks when the flood came. You know what I mean? Um, so don't cast yourself before your time. You know what I mean? He didn't do a wrong thing by telling his people to build the ark, or for him building the ark, right? But when the time came, those people had already turned their back on the very thing, that could ultimately had saved them. Yes, the hailstorms look crazy in Connecticut. The hailstorms look crazy in Idaho or Iowa, right? And just weather conditions everywhere. The tornado look crazy in Coney Island. The lightning strikes look crazy in DC. It's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in cancer season, right? For 7 days from now, I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living thing I have made. And Noah did all that the Lord had commanded him. Now Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters came upon the earth, right? So this man, 600 years old, right? Who God said finally this was his favorite because all of his other prophets had failed. They didn't follow instructions, and he had to scrap the thing. Noah was the third iteration of God's prophet, of his prophets, or what have you, giving them commandments and them not following it, right? Noah was the one that they said finally followed his prompting, and he was awarded for that. But the award turned into a curse immediately because he was getting nice with he got rewarded. The nigga was getting spicy off of some wine, and his son saw his junk, and he threw a curse on him. And we've been wrestling with that ever since, because we don't know who the people of Canaan are. They said that that's melanated people, but the elite are actually the Canaanites. The elite are actually the ones that worship Baal, right? The elite are the ones that actually have the curse, that have, deposited the curse on you, and you're wearing it wholesale when you running around here with all the blessings in the world, and you can't identify the fact that you are blessed. You can't identify the fact that you are favored. You can't identify the fact that you got the cosmic spacesuit. You can't identify the fact that the ball is in your court, not the ball, but the ball is in your court, right? We just can't identify that. So now they're kicking the ball, right, on the pitch. We just finished seeing them dribbling the ball. And prior to that, they was throwing the ball through the air. We're all ball worshipers to some degree or another, because sports rival religion. Facts. As we can see, shout out to my brother, Fire Vibes. Fire. So we open up with a very interesting observation, right? Yeah, Morocco and Egypt are left, right? Morocco and Egypt. Egypt has a hero twin story. Now, all of this stuff is mythical and mystical. I'm here for it. I love a good story. I'm a sucker for a story. So I'm tied into these stories. These narratives is amazing, scripted or not, right? Give me my edutainment. So they got two twins that are leading the Egypt charge. One of them is a coach. They call her Hassam twins, and they're rebels. They're revolutionaries, but they're a beautiful twin story because they stick together regardless of what's going on. Like, they was both playing ball prior to this, and they're national heroes. They're heroes, and the team is called Pharaohs, right? And man, this thing is playing itself out. So they got all the melanated African teams up out of there, right? And now you got the amalgamated versions. You got the French Arabs, and then you got the ones in Egypt. I don't even know what they call themselves, right? But they got the Africans up out of there, the melanated ones. You feel me? They sacrificed them all on the altar of Baal. These games are, the colonizer Hunger Games are deep, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just here taking notes. So let me do a cross reference, then we're gonna move on. Right? Nobody said thank you to Morocco in 1777. They was the ones that acknowledged this country to make it actually a country, to make it a thing. Right? These people declared themselves a nation allegedly, and it wasn't yesterday. They actually signed it. It was like July 2nd or July 3rd. July 2nd, according to Raku and the astronomical, if you look at America's birth chart, it was signed on the 2nd. The physical document that's in the files in Europe, in England, is filed on July 3rd for the corporation that this thing is. And then we celebrate on the 4th because of the Heliotic rising of Sirius. That's the esoteric acknowledgement from the French Mason Brotherhood of what this thing is. Hence the fact that the flag is red, white, and blue. Hence the fact that the Statue of Liberty is standing where she stands at. This is all dealing with the French. So the French Moroccan team, right? I mean, it just all comes full circle. Feel me? Matthew 24:38. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark, and they were oblivious until the flood came and swept them all away. So will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. I made a very interesting observation in my last lecture that I did last Sunday. Shout out to everybody who pulled up and attended the 10-year anniversary of Fear of a Black and More Messiah. And I'm not tooting my own horn when I be like, yo, these lectures, these webinars, these presentations that we've been doing since 2009, they all got receipts to them. Peace God. They all got receipts to them. They all have backdrops and backgrounds because they can all be revisited and be like, damn, y'all was on one. Yeah, we was always on one. But I'm not tooting my horn because the game, it's not over, right? It's not over. I just be like, and it's not for the sake of self-aggrandizement to be like, look at me, look at me. I'm just like, yo, what if we were more studious? What if we paid more attention to the things that were already said, to the you know, to the things that was already laid out, right? That would lend validity into what it is that you're paying attention and giving your energy to nowadays, right? Because I'm like, shout out to Akibalon. I'm like Akibalon. The information is boring out here. Like niggas is not decoding nothing. They're not breaking nothing down. They're not pointing you in the right direction. They're not making prophecies. They're not doing none of those things. They're regurgitating information and not giving credit where it's due. Egypt was destroyed by Moses for what they were so great. Idolatry, same today. Men making deals with dimensional entities. Egypt was not destroyed by Moses. Right? There's no historical record or proof that Moses ever existed in Egypt or that the Egyptians had the Israelites under bondage, if you want to be for real about it. You know what I'm saying? These are all narratives, mythos, and fables. And Moses did not destroy Kemet. Nigga, they were still sending in the mythos, nigga, they were still sending Egypt, they were still sending Jesus to Kemet to learn. Like, there's like, how you can destroy Kemet? Now, we could say you could say Kemet is a graveyard, right? But that don't mean that it was destroyed. There's no evidence that no pharaoh was drowned. We're regurgitating narratives and mythos, and we're taking them literal, and we're being disrespectful of the people who really put on, who really got the evidence to show you that they existed, who really left something etched in stone, right? You're disrespecting them because of a narrative and a fable. You wasn't there. You don't know. How would you know? There's no inscriptions nowhere on the walls to say that none of that stuff happened. Yeah, you you can find the bodies of the pharaohs, Come on. We're getting too far ahead of ourselves. But let's because I'm here playing the game with you. So right, I sound crazy. Let's get back to it though. Exodus 7:5. God commands Moses and Aaron. Right, this is what you're talking about. Pharaoh will not listen to you. Then I will lay my hand on Egypt, and by mighty acts of judgment, I will bring the divisions of my people, the Israelites, out of the land of Egypt, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I stretch out my hand, Father, stretch my hand against Egypt, and bring the Israelites out from amongst them. So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded them. Right? Why send your children into Kemet? Why castigate a people who fed your people, who fed your children? God's only chosen, but you're sending them to subordinates, right? You didn't know that those people was into idolatry before you sent your children there to eat from their table, to sleep in their beds, to fornicate with their women. Oh, but you're gonna turn around and all of a sudden, you're gonna snake them at the same time, but then turn around later and still send your prophets there to learn, right? Why not just knock down the monuments if you was hating on them like that? Why would you let something that you think or you felt rival you, why would you let it stand to this day? Because it's causing all sort of geopolitical issues, right? Where the Arabs now have to feel, so you got a whole nother subset of people who have come into Kemet, and by all of the things that was left there, they have to find a way to integrate themselves into the narrative so they can make it make sense. Come on, like I'm like, just don't. It's not necessary to hate on them. You know what I mean? If they wasn't great, there's no need for the hate. If they wasn't great, right, we wouldn't still be talking about them to this day, and they wouldn't be the #1 tourist destination for certain things, right? Motherfuckers is not going to the Holy Land on tour, and prior to Is It Real doing what it did. I'm just saying, and I'm here being as partial as I can. But I don't condone the hating, because this is the condition. This is the reason why a lot of people are still in the condition that they're in. It's like it's a wholesale hate campaign. And the reason why they're hating on the people because they was melanated, doing miraculous things, right? That can't be explained to this day. And if their God was so subordinate, if their deities was so based, you feel me? How did they master architecture? Because you got to master mathematics and science. So intellectually, these people were on par, right? They had a cosmological orientation. With the fact that this country here still knew Egypt, this country here still knew Rome and knew Greece at the same time, but it's powered by way of evidence. Look, you can see. I'm gonna show you this shit right here. Like, come on, let's stop playing. This technology is still valid because it's effective. And if it wasn't, then we wouldn't be emulating it the way in which we still do to this day, to tap into the energy, free energy. The obelisk or the Tekenu was made out of granite and limestone, which creates tachyon energy, which means that the obelisk is a piece of technology, right, that transmutes or transmits into multi-dimensions instantaneously like that. That's how quick tachyon energy travels, faster than the speed of thought. Well, should I say the speed of light? Because they can't measure the speed of thought. The speed of thought travels faster than the speed of light. So what is a thought? Israel. Again, all of these are good. Is Moses, Moses. Israel. They doing the Israel. That's cute, God commanded Moses and Aaron, right? Exodus 14:4, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart so that he will pursue them, but I will gain honor by means of Pharaoh and all of his army and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So this is what the Israelites did. Why you have to lure him in and finesse him? I mean, power is supposed to be absolute. Snap a finger and it's done. Why you got to finesse him? Why you got to play the game with him? Why do you have to have respect for his power if it's mute? If his gods don't exist? You know what I'm saying? Why are you tussling in this particular way and compromising a win? Egypt was evil in the end. This is why white America took the culture of Egypt, because it's evil. I mean, that's not accurate though. Like, whether something is evil or not, like the church is evil. You know what I'm saying? The Vatican is evil, right? There's a lot of things that we can say are quote unquote evil. Let's say that Kemet was debased towards the end, and Kemet fell on its debaseness, and it was taken over by the Ptolemies and the Greeks and the Romans and things of that nature, right? So what version of it do you say was quote unquote evil? Again, this is indoctrination. I don't have to be indoctrinated to sit there and say the church is evil. They're fucking kids, right? And they're responsible for subjugation and slavery and colonization and you name it, global wars, all in the name of Jesus, or all in the name of the church, because they hijacked Jesus a long time ago. All in the name of religion, right? Which is control. It's a political tool. You feel me? Leviticus 7:5, the guilt offering. Both kidneys with fat on them near the loins, and the lobe of the liver, which is to be removed from the kidneys. The priest shall burn them on the altar as an offering made by fire to the Lord. It is a guilt offering. Every male amongst the priests may eat of it and must be eaten in the holy place. It is most holy, right? So let's do a cross reference. Okay. Leviticus 1:9, the entrails. You know what entrails are, right? That's chitlins. The entrails and legs must be washed with water, and the priest shall burn all of it on the altar as a burnt offering, a food offering, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. So the Lord likes burning chitlins. Do you? Right? But I'm not going to sit there and say that that's evil. I'm not going to condemn them like a Christian would condemn African traditional spiritual systems and their practices when clearly they borrowed the whole script from them. This is West African Igbo activity. Feel me? This is West African Igbo activity, if you will, right? The animal sacrifice and the burning of entrails, which is chitlins, right? Again, yeah, so maybe we really are the children of Canaan. Maybe we really are the lost tribe. You know what I'm saying? We was offering them chitlins up. We was offering them chitlins up. So God likes chitlins. So does Nana. Right? And Papa. Yeah. I could sit back with my analytical observations and say, oh, that sounds like that's Moloch. Oh, they were borrowing Canaanite practices because, you know, Abraham, which was Abram, comes from Ur of Chaldea, and he's Babylonian for real. And, you know, they just mixed and mingled all of the practices with it. They intertwined them, and they were making sacrifices to Moloch. They were Baal worshipers. I could say that, but why be disrespectful? Let's just go through the narrative. Let's go through the script without pointing fingers and name calling, y'all. It's not necessary. All right. Number 7:5, offerings of dedication. And the Lord said to Moses, accept these gifts from them, that they may be used in the work of the tent of meetings, and give them to the Levites, to each man according to his service. So Moses took the carts and oxen and gave them to the Levites. Okay. Exodus 30:16. Take the atonement money from the Israelites and use it for the service of the tent of meetings. It will serve as a memorial for the Israelites before the Lord to make atonement for your lives. Okay. So there's burnt offerings for atonement. There's cash offerings for atonements. You know what I'm saying? And then now there's the blood of Jesus. Casting out the nations. Deuteronomy 7:5. Because they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. Then the anger of the Lord will burn against you, and he will swiftly destroy you. Instead, this is what you are to do to them. Tear down their altars, smash their sacred pillars, cut down their Asherah poles, and burn their idols in the fire. For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be a people for his prized possession out of all of the peoples on the face of the earth. So he's telling them to go and, you know, commit arson, destroy other people's things. So that Asherah poles, this is all dealing with. Once again, it's like the God of the Bible was jealous of what Kemet had going on. The God of the Bible was jealous of what the Babylonians had going on and the Canaanites. You know what I'm saying? But these are the instructions. You know what I mean? Like, why hate on other gods? Like, if those are not your rivals, if those are subordinates to you, right? But your children is always getting booked by them. Someone is always going to them because they're more ancient than you. How are they more ancient than you, first of all? How they got more structures than you, right? How they got more civilization than you? How they got more tribute and bread than you, right? And how they people is not as scattered as yours. And I'm just saying, these are just questions that naturally come up to a rational mind that's thinking like, damn, a lot of this stuff, you got to be under a certain mental subjection to just wholesale accept it for what it is. 2 Chronicles 34:4. Then in the presence, the altars of the Baals were torn down, and he cut to pieces the incense altars that were above them, right? He shattered the Asherah poles, the carved idols, and the cast images, crushed them to dust, and scattered them over the graves of those who had sacrificed to them. That sounds like a lot of anger. I mean, and it could be a absolute declaration. You feel me? But my genius, like, if you got a beef with another subordinate minor god, and then destroy that god, go to war with it. Or I mean, god damn, bro. But turning your congregation into a angry version of yourself where you're destroying other people's sacraments and the things that they hold sacred, that's always going to create problems. You're going to have beef forever. Like, you seen that funeral in Iran? Come on, son. Come on, son. Did you see that funeral in Iran for the Ayatollah? They clipped his wings in the end of February. Wait, March, April, May, June, and July. This nigga been in the morgue for 5 months. These are a different type of people. They a different type of people. If they're going to a 5-month-old funeral and there's millions of people in the street and they know they could get bombed and droned, right? That's not a type of people why would I want to beef with them people? What am I so resolute and absolute about in life that I'm willing to ride against that sort of energy? I ain't signing up for that, right? But they signed your babies up for it. Come December, right? Start of 27, that draft gonna be mandatory. And I got nieces and nephews, so this is not something I'm not making fun of the situation. I'm concerned. After the midterms, right? And they start sending these babies off and because they're gonna be in their feelings because they losing control, or they consolidate control and really just go all out, right? The same people who were welcoming a white supremacist marching on DC on America's 250th is the same people that's going to tell you you got to sacrifice for the country, right? Let's send your children to Iran as foot soldiers or what have you, with these robots backing them up, because that's what they're waiting on, right? They're waiting on the robots. And they're going to try to go up in there against them people. Them people ain't playing. Did you see them people? Bro, look at the footage. There's millions of them, right? Going to a state-sponsored funeral. And they doing it like in a 5-town city. They doing it across 5 or 6 days. It's a traveling event. They on tour with the body, right? And it seems like other people love different. You know what I mean? I'm looking at FIFA, right? And I'm like, damn, look at national pride. Look what happens when people come around an energy that they all agree upon, which to them is their nationality or their flag. Because this is more than just soccer for them, right? This is the colonizer Hunger Games, and they're pushing back against their colonizers. They're playing for pride. And it started in Pride Month. That's a whole nother conversation. But that pride can't rival that pride. National pride, nationalism, when fully stoked, coupled with religion, nigga, you talking about a whole different sort of human being that's capable of a whole different sort of situation. And it just doesn't seem like, what are we that passionate about outside of sports that we can unify around? What national pride do we have where you physically, literally saw the dichotomy on the anniversary of this country's 250th birthday? It's a nation divided. It's a house split in two. It's black and white. They still playing these games when the whole world is in color. The whole world is in color. And they are united forces that cannot be rivaled by this BS propaganda over here. They got people in the tizzy. They got y'all in the spell. Not y'all, but you know, goddamn. Israel defeated at Ai. Joshua 7:5. So about 3,000 men went up, but they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai struck down about 36 of them, chasing them from the gate as far as the quarries and striking them down on the slopes. So the hearts of the people melted and became like water. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down before the ark of the Lord until evening, as did the elders of Israel, and they all sprinkled dust on their heads. All right. Let's do a cross reference before we move on. A lot of battles. Deuteronomy 128. Where can we go? Our brothers have made our hearts melt, saying, the people are larger and taller than we are. The cities are large, the walls up to the heavens. We even saw the descendants of the Anakim there. Right? So this is them going up against people like the Philistines, right? The giants, people who were physically superior to them, and they got what they feel was a divine intervention. They got the wind beneath their wings, and they were able to conquer or defeat against all odds. You know what I mean? Gideon's army of 300. This is Judges 7:5. Then the Lord said to Gideon, there are still too many people. Take them down to the water, and I will shift them for you there. If I say to you, this one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say this one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So Gideon brought the people down to the water, and the Lord said to him, separate those who lap the water with their tongues like a dog from those who kneel to drink. And the number of those who lapped the water with their hands to their mouths was 300 men, and the others knelt to drink. Mm. So they had a 300 too. Exodus 17:5. And the Lord said to Moses, walk on ahead of the people and take some of the elders of Israel with you. Take along in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. Behold, I will stand there before you by the rock of Horeb, and when you strike the rock, water will come out of it for the people to drink. So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel. Right? Again, we're speaking about a book of magic where you have to arrest all judgment of rationality, right, to receive this message. I read it like it's mythos, right? Because I also show how mythos overlaps reality. So by me saying it's a mythos doesn't mean that it can't overlap reality to a degree or show us a mirror, but it's mythos, a good mythos at that, one of the best, but a mythos nonetheless. Samuel subdues the Philistines. So the Israelites put away the Baals and Ashtaroths and served only the Lord. Like, for you to even say that is there's one God, right? A monad or what have you. Where do all of these other gods come from that were well established in the land, right? When when the Israelites got to Canaan, there was 7 people there. They 7 booked the Airbnb, my nigga. They were already established. Okay, where do all of these gods come from? India had them. Egypt had them. America's had them, right? And they were all superior. Asia had them. Everyone had them. And it was all cooking. Look at the architecture of these places. Look at the cosmological alignments of these places. Look at the architecture, which is referring to the fact that they mastered arithmetic, mathematics. They were hella civilized, right? Without your God. Man, make these gods up. They name them. How were there gods in the land before your God existed? If your God was the first God to exist, there would be no other gods, right? They would have not taken root. Where did they get time? Where did they get the references from? How do they have the cosmological narratives down pat? I mean, these are things that you should just ask yourself in silence with a rational mind. You ain't got to do it right now, but goddamn. Samuel subdues the Philistines. Okay. So the Israelites put away the Baals and the Ashtaroths and served only the Lord. Then Samuel said, gather all Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray to the Lord in your behalf. When they had gathered at Mizpah, they drew water and poured it out before the Lord. On that day they fasted, and they confessed, we have sinned against the Lord. And Samuel judged the Israelites at Mizpah. Okay? Like, why? What is there to sin? Like, what is there to ask for forgiveness to? And how can you sin for doing something that you're saying did not exist? Like, if they were worshiping other gods, but these other gods were figments of their imagination, can't they just be like, oh, I was just in my imagination? You know what I'm saying? Why? What? There's blood that's being shed in the name of these entities and these deities, right? There's monuments that are built to them. So the flex is saying, oh, they're not real gods. I'm the only real God. Then show me, nigga, knock some shit down. Stop, you know what I mean? Like, stop competing with them as if they're your rival, but they don't exist, and then turn around to me and tell me that they're not real. But then someone can give themselves to them. I don't get it, bro. But let's carry on. Exodus 32:11. But Moses sought the favor of the Lord his God, saying, O Lord, why does your anger burn against your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians declare, he brought them out with evil intent to kill them in the mountains and wipe them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce anger and relent from doing harm to your people. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, to whom you swore by your very self when you declared, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the skies, and I will give your descendants all this land that I have promised, and it shall be their inheritance forever. The so-called Jewish population, the chosen people of the planet, only represent like 1.2%. Right? And I know what you're going to tell me, that those are not the ones or what have you. But I'm like, yo, why you focused on what we talking about? My nigga, you got a whole fight to fight over there. Go get your name back. Go get your claim back. Go get your land back. Go get your title back. Right? Because they out here running that shit into the ground, my nigga. While we over here just asking questions, attempting to figure some things out. Right? But I ain't middle fingering nobody's stuff. Because it's like everyone got a piece, and we're being students, and we're extracting, right, the gems, the knowledge, to see where the commonalities lie across the spectrum. Oh, this person said that, or that person said, oh yeah, there's a lot of commonality in that. Rather than me try to out you as being the same thing, I'm just like, all right, maybe there's some truth there. If the truth is compounding, maybe that lends some credence to it. God's covenant with David, right? But that night, the word of the Lord came to Nathan, saying, go and tell my servant David that this is what the Lord says. Are you the one to build for me a house to dwell in? But I have not dwelt in a house from the day I brought the Israelites up out of Egypt until this day, but I have moved about with a tent as my dwelling. Right? What would an all-encompassing God need a house for? What would an omnipresent and an omnipotent God need a house for? Does the kingdom not exist within the body of man? Right? That's a whole nother conversation. It's a whole nother conversation. 1 Kings 21:19. Tell him that this is what the Lord says. Have you not murdered a man and seized his land? Then tell him that this is what also the Lord says. In the place where the dogs licked up the blood of Naboth, there's also the dogs will lick up your blood. Yes, yours. Give me 1 second. I just, for the sake of energy, for the sake of like getting through this, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to argue. I don't want to argue nobody's religion. You know what I'm saying? I'm attempting to be as respectful to the narrative as possible for the sake of, right? And it has not been respectful to us. It does not have that same level of decency for us. And yet I'm still here attempting to have it for them, for the sake of, right? I don't want to argue about nobody's, you know, what you believe is what you believe, man. But just don't be disrespectful to other people's orientations. No, and I'm not gonna block you. I could have kicked you out a long time ago if that was the situation. I don't normally do that, right? I allow people to have their space, my genius, but just don't be disrespectful. And you can have a different perspective, but I don't. That's not what you're coming across with. You feel me? 1 King 7:5. Solomon builds his palace. There were 3 rows of high windows facing one another in 3 tiers. All of the doorways had rectangular frames with the openings facing one another in 3 tiers. Solomon made his colonnade 50 cubits long and 30 cubits wide, with the portico in front of it and a canopy with pillars in front of the portico. Now, the individual in question that's in the chat, I know that you did not sit in for my lecture last week. So I'll just share with you a slide once again. And this is not to stoke controversy, right? Or to be dismissive of the narrative that I just read, but to help yourself, if you may want to know, or the people that are listening to say, yo, like when they were making these references and this terminology, right? These are can very well be, if you will, veil references to how the body works, right? And this concept that we exist in the temple of God in this physical body, in our physical forms. You know what I mean? And there's proof that denotes this, that when they are speaking about the dimensionality of building out these edifices, these buildings or what have you, they were speaking about, or they were utilizing the measurements of man, right? And wouldn't it be such more of an empowering message if they were telling you that you had the power, that the power lies within you, that you got access to it, that it's in you, not on you, that you can always access it? Like, why is that so? Why is that so like disrespectful? Why is that? Why is that something that you would be against? Why would you want to fight that? I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah. He said they shoot on me on my channel heavy, but I don't block. Let it be. Yeah, I don't want to block either. I don't even want to get into that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I gotta block you, that should take something away from me. You know what I'm saying? That means like we had a situation that we couldn't come eye to eye, and we're not physically seeing each other eye to eye. But I'm like, I don't think it's that serious. You haven't done anything egregious. You just don't agree. I don't think that that's grounds to block you. You know what I'm saying? Blocking somebody is an egregious act. Ezekiel 41:25. Cherubim and palm trees like those on the walls were carved on the doors of the outer sanctuary, and there was a wooden canopy outside on the front of the portico. They were beveled windows and palm trees on the side walls of the portico. The side rooms of the temple are also had canopies. So the pillars are on the portico, right? On the porch of the temple. That's where they put the pillars at. Shout out to the pillars. 2 Kings 7:5. Peace. The siege lifted. 2 Kings 7:5. If we say, let us go into the city, we will die there from the famine in the city. But if we sit here, we will also die. So come now, let us go over to the camp of the Arameans. If they let us live, we will live. If they kill us, we will die. That don't sound like a lot of faith. You putting your life in the hands of man. That's not, your brethrens. But when they came to the outskirts of the camp, there was not a man to be found, for the Lord had caused the Arameans to hear the sound of chariots, horses, and a great army, so that they said to one another, "Look, the king of Israel must have hired the kings of the Hittites and the Egyptians to attack us." And I guess they fled. 1 Samuel 14:15. Then panic struck the Philistines in the camp, in the field, and amongst all of the people. Even those in the outposts and raiding parties trembled. Indeed, the earth quaked, and panic spread from God. Now, when Saul's watchmen at Gibeah and Benjamin looked and saw the troops melting away, they scattered in every direction. Wartime battlefield stories. You know what I'm saying? 1 Chronicles 7:5. And warfare is necessary for the maintenance and the sustainability of a nation of people, I guess, that are surrounded by ops. The descendants of Issachar, in addition to them, according to their genealogy, they had 36,000 troops for battle. They had many wives and children. Their kinsmen belonging to all of the families of Issachar, who were mighty men of valor, totaling 87,000 as listed in their genealogies. They was deep. They was deep. Joshua 1:14 as a cross reference. Your wives, your young children, and your livestock may remain in the land that Moses gave you on this side of the Jordan, but all of your mighty men of valor must be armed for battle to cross over ahead of your brothers and help them. You know what I'm saying? Now, yeah, these are men of valor. These are amazing stories about holding one another down. But, a lot of warfare. A lot of warfare. You know what I'm saying? To this day. So it's like, even if this book was about our people and y'all saying, man, them people over there ain't our people, I'd be damned if they ain't following the same pattern as the same people, my nigga. They done picked up beefs that you done left. And they're scrapping in the same manner, in the same way. They fit perfectly into narrative of this scripture. The modern day, is it real? So you say ain't real. I'm like, my nigga, they're carrying on the same energy. When you adopt a person's identity and they eat those, right? Like if you get a transplant and you get somebody's kidney or liver in your body or a heart, you're gonna start operating. You're gonna start doing them. That's why people are so against getting organ transplants, because you start emulating the pattern behaviors of the person that was connected to the organ. So imagine if you cosplaying an entire people and their entire history, right? But you've taken on an energy that you can't contain because it's a Shekinah energy. It's light. It's lightning. You got to house it in your body, almost like how the ark was made to house the energy of God. Right? These people are housing this energy. They're channeling and they're calling upon the memory that's attached to these energies, and it's churning them out. Yes, destiny swapping is what it's called, right? And then they're over there carrying on in a way to us that looks animalistic because they can't maintain the energy that they've conjured. But it's the same stories. Damn near. They scrapping with everyone that they surrounded by because they came in there with ill intentions to begin with, right? When Israel came, or when they established the state of Israel in 1947, they were very vocal from that point thereon about larger Israel. We got to get this neighbor out. We need more land. We need this. They weren't being diplomatic about it. They were telegraphing and telling the world and telling their neighbors, we intend to take your shit in the name of the Lord. And those people have been on notice ever since, and they've been prepping and waiting for this day, right, to do battle with the people who have been very vocal about, yeah, I don't respect the fact that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we live in a shared land, but F your land. Yeah, I'm taking everything. House way. Chronicles 7:5. Sacrifices of dedication. Shout out to your hood astrologist. She said that she did a video about the organs affecting a person getting a transplant and its astrological indications. Yeah. Sacrifices of dedication. Then the king and all of the people offered sacrifices before the Lord. And King Solomon offered a sacrifice of 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all of the people dedicated the house of God. So, in order to open up the first temple and consecrate it properly as an offering, right, to God, the God that's responsible for the creation of the animals that you have dominion over, in order to convince him that this was you know, a tidy undertaking, right? They had to sacrifice 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep, right, to make it consecrated. The priests stood at their posts, as did the Levites, with the musical instruments of the Lord, which King David had made for giving thanks to the Lord, and which David had offered praise, saying, for his loving devotion endures forever. Across from the Levites, the priests sounded trumpets, and all of the Israelites were standing, right? So who am I to judge, right? I would say that this is egregious, but who am I to judge? You go from putting animals in the ark, right, to save the continuity of a species, to turning them around, right? Yeah, and creating a blood flow for your temple that consists of the offering, the slaying of, I mean, did you hear the numbers? 22,000 oxen. An oxen is a bull. 120,000 sheep, nigga. That's a lot of sheepskin. You feel me? But what does the shepherd have left to work with? And then fuck around and get a famine the next year. Like, if the gods gotta eat, what are the people gonna eat? It's crazy. But what do I know? Ezra 6:16. Then the people of Israel, the priests, the Levites, and the rest of the exiles celebrated the dedication of the house of God with joy. For the dedication of the house of God, they offered 100 bulls, 200 rams, 400 lambs, and a sin offering for all of Israel of 12 male goats, one for each tribe of Israel. Now, this sounds like an ebo, right? That is attached to a African traditional system, but they ebos are out of this world. Why I take exception to this, okay, is that I lived in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, right? I saw the Hasidic Jews doing this in the streets of Brooklyn on Eastern Parkway with the chickens, okay? I've also been part of spiritual systems, right, where they told me, they like, yo, our people don't come and see them no more. Their number one clients, they said, were Jewish people. These were African traditional spiritual systems. The Hasidims were bringing not just themselves to get initiated, they were bringing their children, right? And their children were gun-ho to do the ceremonial ritual. When they're not allowed, they don't have a hand of ephod to do that. There's like the children were so interested in doing sacrifices, the babies. This is 15, 20 years ago. So Lord knows what's going on nowadays. You have no idea who these people are, or what the spiritual ramifications of bloodletting is, if you're not spiritually grounded in the process, you just can't take a life and not pay for it, right? Because there's sacrificing, then there's murder. And those are two different things separated by very thin lines. So I seen them do the chickens dirty on Eastern Parkway and leave the carcasses there. That's not how you even dispose of a carcass. You got to bring them to the crossroads. There's a certain way the thing's supposed to be done. That's not being done, and it's unleashing mayhem and havoc in the name of, right, people cosplaying. And enough is enough. Because, and I asked Black Israelites, what's y'all ceremonies then? When I asked the Hebrews, what's y'all ceremonies? Right? Because something got to get sent up, my nigga. Because your God transacts in blood. Like most gods do. The difference with the Christians is that their transaction in blood is not an animal sacrifice. It was a human ebo, right? God himself became the sacrifice, and the transaction in blood is the blood of Jesus. And then the people don't get it. I'm like, they've never been around spiritual systems. They don't get they don't get the implications of what's taking place here. And it's it's right there. It ain't subtle. It's right there. Yes, they take more discretion when preparing kosher food than they do when they're doing mass ceremonial rituals on Eastern Parkway. And then scripture says that if they don't properly contain the conjuring that comes from them ceremonies, right? That all, because when they do the chickens, it's to remove bad energy from the followers or the adherents. They say when you don't properly dispose of the animal, right, that energy goes into the community and it visits the sons. So it just so happens that in that community of Eastern Parkway, right down the block from Kingston, where the headquarters of the Shabab Hasidics are at, 777 Eastern Parkway, right down the block is Albany Projects, where the blood gang starts in Brooklyn and where the highest concentration of AIDS is at. Okay? That's, and again, I don't want to take culpability off of the people who are doing the fuck shit. But I'd be damned if that's not a cursed place, and everyone knew that that project was cursed. I wonder why. So Albany Projects in that part of Crown Heights is the toilet for the Jews on Eastern Parkway that's flushing that shit. Your family's from Albany? Am I making this up? Am I making this up? Is that not where the Bloods in New York started? And is that not where they have the highest concentration of AIDS? Just saying. Just saying. Ezra goes up to Jerusalem. Ezra 7:5. The son of Zerahiah, the son of Uzi, and the son of Buki, the son of Abishua, the son of Pinehas, the son of Eleazar, and the son of Aaron, the chief priest. Okay. This Ezra came up from Babylon. He was a scribe skilled in the law of Moses, which the Lord, the God of Israel, had given. The king had granted Ezra all his requests, for the hand of the Lord, his God, was upon him. Shout out to all of my Crown Heights people tapping in. I see y'all. Right? Don't leave me on a limb. I'm not saying that you got to co-sign everything that I'm saying, but goddamn, I'm not making this up. This is a clear observation. I'm not making it up. Them people stand right there and throw the chicken. And you know, if you lived in the area, you know how they feel about you. You know, They're very unapologetic. They'll let you know. It's the tale of two cities in one neighborhood. Hmm. Judges 20:27. And the Israelites inquired of the Lord. In those days, the ark of the covenant of God was there, and Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, served before it. The Israelites asked, should we again go out to battle against our brothers, the Benjamites, or should we stop? The Lord answered, fight, for tomorrow I will deliver them into your hands. Not the Benjamites, not the tribe of Benjamin. Thought they was all brothers. Nehemiah 7:5. The list of returning exiles. Now the city was large and spacious, but there were few people in it, and the houses had not yet been built. Then my God put it into my heart to assemble the nobles, the officials, and the people to be enrolled by genealogy. I found the genealogical register of those who had first returned, and I found the following written in it. These are the people of the province who came up from the captivity of the exiles carried away to Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar, its king. They returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to his own town. So these were two separate provinces, two different energies and ideologies. Jerusalem and Judah different. You know what I'm saying? Just like Babylon, very different. Babylon, melanated. Thank you. Um, let's Ezra 8:1. These are the family heads and genealogical records of those who returned with me from Babylon during the reign of King Artaxerxes. So you got the Babylonians and you got the Persians. You got the Assyrians and you got the Philistines. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot of rivals. It was a lot going on. And that just not, I'm not saying rivals in terms of the physical nature. I mean rivals in terms of their beliefs and their gods and their systems and their civilization. Is culture and religion the same thing? Not necessarily. Esther 7:5. Esther pleads for her people. For my people I have been sold out to destruction, death, and annihilation. If we had merely been sold as men servants and maid servants, I would have remained silent because no such distress would justify burdening the king. Oh, really? Then King Xerxes spoke up and asked Queen Esther, who is this and where is the one who would devise such a scheme? Esther replied, the adversary and the enemy is this wicked man, Haman. And Haman stood in terror before the king and queen. So when they speak about Purim, right? Purim was celebrated March 3rd of this year when we had a red moon right after they went into Iran. This story that Esther's telling with Haram with wait, with Haman. This is when the Persians, right, passed an edict, and they wanted to not just expel the Jews, they wanted to exterminate them. And King Esther, right, that's why they have something now called Project Esther, because Esther, Queen Esther, is a figure in scripture who looked out for her peoples, who sacrificed her peoples. You know what I mean? And let me see if they got it listed here. Esther 3:6. And when he learned the identity of Mordecai's people, he scorned the notion of laying hands on Mordecai alone. Instead, he sought to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the kingdom of Xerxes. In the 12th year of King Xerxes, am I saying Xerxes or Xerxes? Anyway, that's the um, Persian king that they showed in the movie 300 with all of the jewelry on him. Okay, King Xerxes. In the 12th year of King Xerxes, in the first month, the month of Nisan, the pure, that is the lot, was cast before Haman to determine the day and month. So they were attempting to see what day would be the day that they move. You know what I mean? On the folk. Then Haman informed King Xerxes, there is a certain people scattered and dispersed amongst the people of every province of your kingdom. Their laws are different from everyone else's, and they do not obey the king's laws. So it is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. Right? So he was wilding them up. Okay? He was wilding them up. He was lining them up for extermination. And Queen Esther, she dropped dimes. You know what I mean? And they was able to send him up, foil the plot, and now that's celebrated as Purim. Job 7:5. Job continues, life seems futile. When I lay down, I think, when will I get up? But the night drags on, and I toss and turn until dawn. My flesh is clothed with worms and encrusted with dirt. My skin is cracked and festering. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle. They come to an end without hope. It sounded like Job had parasites in his brain, and he was going through unnecessary tribulation. Sound like he had parasite uh what's that called, infestation. His brain just was not working the right way, and the lamenting, the distress and the despair. Yes, that yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that the best way to read scripture, if you're gonna read scripture, is through the Hebrew, right? Through the fire language. And even with this concordance right here, you can go to Bible Hub, and this concordance, right? Like, let's take this for instance, okay? I just want to give you an example of how this works, okay? Let's go to Strong's Concordance. So here goes the Strong's Concordance. Here goes the Hebrew. Is breaking down every line, all right? It's breaking down every line in Hebrew. It's giving you the numerical value of it, right? And it's giving you different interpretations of what the English translation of the Hebrew can possibly mean. They're giving you the parallel verses, the parallel Strongs, right? And then once you deduce the weight of it, you can go even deeper to find out what is the weight of the word in correlation to the astrological signature, because Hebrew is written in fire letters. Each fire letter has a cosmological correspondence to it. They're connected to planets. They're connected to the cosmos. Okay. So that if you want to do super deep analysis rather than just read it in Hebrew, yes, you can go and do Strong's Concordance. Okay. Maggot worm, cause of sign of decay. And you get the true essence of what was being said. You can derive the true essence from it when you really get into the Strong's Concordance of it. Parallel. All right. Job continues, life seems futile. I think, yeah, we already read that, right? Yeah. Yeah, let's get off Job. It hurt, you know. Job is just depressing to read sometimes, even though Job is triumphant. Let's go to Psalms. That got a different energy on it, right? That's our people's book. Psalms and Proverbs. I've used these very successfully during my times going to court casting spells on spellcasters, because that's all they was doing up in them courtrooms. They was using magic. So you go up in there and you use some magic against them, right? Who had that blue and white Proverbs and Psalms book? Who used to write passages on a paper bag and put them under the left shoe? Hmm? Hmm? Yeah, yeah. Job is. It's a lot of wisdom. It's a lot of wisdom in Job, right? Psalm 7:5. I take refuge in you. If I have rewarded my ally with evil, if I have plundered my foe without cause, then may my enemy pursue me and overtake me. May he trample me to the ground and leave my honor in the dust. Selah. Arise, O Lord, in your anger. Rise up against the fury of my enemies. Awake, my God, and ordain judgment. So think about the U.S., right? If I have rewarded my ally with evil, if I have plundered my foe without cause. So the diplomatic relations that they have with their allies, they've given them their, they've thumbed their nose at their own allies. They done ran down in Venezuela with no probable cause, taking all of their stuff, and now them people is in a situation that they can't easily dig themselves out of. Deuteronomy 28:45. All these curses will come upon you. They will pursue you and overtake you until you are destroyed, since you did not obey the Lord your God and keep the commandments and statutes that he gave you. Let's go to Proverbs. Proverbs 7:5. Warnings about the adulteress. Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call understanding your kinsmen, that they may help you from the adulteress, from the stranger with seductive words. For at the window of my house I look through the lattice. Proverbs 5:20. Why be captivated, my son, by an adulteress, or embrace the bosom of a stranger? For a man's ways are before the eyes of the Lord, and the Lord examines all his paths. The iniquities of a wicked man entrap him, the cords of his sin entangle him. And I just love the last one, Exodus 20:14. You shall not commit adultery. Don't do it. Don't do it. It means that you're spiritually bankrupt. And what I mean by that, without being judgmental, right? Or ye of little faith are spiritually bankrupt, because when you make a union, right? You're in a relationship with somebody, y'all, y'all ain't even got to be married. Like, if you're spending time, if you're with someone, then there's a spiritual counsel that y'all spirits are like entangled and intertwined with. And wherever you go, you bringing that person's spiritual counsel with you, right? That kind of like becomes the shield of your cosmic covering. Like, that's spiritually your family. So you going and creeping to other places and spaces. You think that the fact that she call your phone when you there and you're not answering, you think that she just has a hunch or a feeling? No, she's getting a nudge from her spirit, nigga, telling her, yo, this nigga's over here fucking up. You know what I'm saying? You need to intercede immediately in the physical, because we can't do it spiritually. Yeah, we might knock something over. We might show him a sign. but he finna jump out the window altogether. If you want to save this thing, and then you come home and you playing stupid, and then you create all of these situations where shit start crumbling because the lattice, the threading, the tightness, the weaving, now this shit becomes unweaved, and you you want to say so many other things other than what it is, right? You fucked it up, my nigga, by being spiritually inept. You know, the value of wisdom. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning. Oh, you know, and take that however you choose to walk with it. I'm not being judgmental. I'm telling you from personal experience that you know that's kind of like how it looks. That's what it is. When you strip it all down, that's what's going on. You know, so you could try your best to get around that. Yeah, yeah. Still in church. When I finish this, I'll hit you back. It's a bee chasing you. We are in cancer season, my brother. M44 is the beehive cluster. Embrace that bee. It got honey for you on the other side. You heard? All right, my brother. The value of wisdom, the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of pleasure. Oh, it is better to heed a wise man rebuke than to listen to the song of fools. So this thing is rolling in real time, right? Ecclesiastes 7:5. For like the crackling of thorns under the pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This too is futile, right? So I kid you not. This is the same thing that I just said. It is better to heed a wise man rebuke. I'm not telling you, right, to I'm not attempting to steal your pleasure from you. I'm just saying it makes no sense to creep. If you have a spiritual union with someone, you take the spiritual counsel everywhere with you. So why would you creep in the physical and think that you're hiding something in the spiritual? It's on record, my nigga. She gonna know. She's gonna get the spiritual nudging because her spirit is riding with you. It used to protect you or cover you. Now you fucking up, and they gotta let baby girl know, and then your whole shit starts breaking and falling apart because you don't want to stand on truth and be like, yeah, I did X, Y, and Z. So yeah, man, it's crazy. Proverbs 9:8. Do not rebuke a mocker or he will hate you. Rebuke a wise man and he will love you. Instruct a wise man and he will be wiser still. Teach a righteous man and he will increase his earnings. So you can follow the song of the fool, right? The songs on the radio that's telling you to do X, Y, and Z and to shoot your load and to. But I'm like, nah, my guy, if you are in a spiritual union with someone, keep it real with that person because that's an ethereal bond that if you break it, it's gonna be penalties for it that you're gonna have to pay. Your thing is gonna come crumbling down on your head. Songs of Solomon, admiration by the bridegroom. Your neck is like a tower made of ivory. Your neck is like a tower made of ebony. Your eyes are like the pools of Heshbon by the gates of Bath Rabbim. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon facing towards Damascus. Your head crowns like your head crowns you like Mount Carmel. The hair of your head like purple threads. The king is captured in your tresses. How fair and pleasant are you? Oh, love with your, they was laying that thing down back then. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's their version of it. You know what I'm saying? They had balls. Isaiah 7:5. Let's get to it. A message to Ahaz. and say to him, calm down and be quiet. Do not be afraid or disheartened over these two smoldering stubs of firewood, over the fierce anger of Rezin and Aram and the son of Ramallah. For Aram, along with Ephraim and the son of Ramallah, has plotted your ruin, saying, let us invade Judah, terrorize it, and divide it amongst ourselves. Then we can install the son of Tabeel over it as king. 2 Chronicles 28:5 as a cross-reference. So the Lord his God delivered Ahaz into the hand of the king of Aram, who attacked him and took many captives to Damascus. Ahaz was also delivered into the hand of the king of Israel, who struck him with great force. They was just sending him around to get whooped on or something. Jeremiah 7:5. Let's get it. Y'all all right? Jeremiah's message at the temple gate. Do not trust in deceptive words, chanting, this is the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord. For if you really correct your ways and deeds, if you act justly towards one another, if you no longer oppress the foreigner and the fatherless and the widow, and if you no longer shed innocent blood in this place or follow other gods to your own harm. Let's see what it says after that. I just want to follow this up. Then I will let you live in this place in the land that I gave to your fathers forever and ever. But look, you keep trusting in deceptive words to no avail. You know what I'm saying? So, he's overselling allegiance in reward for housing. Like, yeah, fuck with me, my nigga, I got you. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't, you're gonna be homeless. Like, come on, son. Deuteronomy 11:8. And you shall therefore keep every commandment I am giving you today, so that you may have the strength to go in and possess the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, and so that you may live long in the land that the Lord swore to your fathers to give them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey, cows and bees. Interestingly, this is just an observation. Bugonia, right? You know that they say, mythologically, they say that the bees come from the carcass of the bull. All right, that's the definition of Bugonia. Let me look it up just to be sure. Right, but that's the mythos. And it just dawned on me that I'm like, milk and honey are correlated and correspond to one another. Right, here we go. It's right here. Bugonia was a folk practice in the ancient Mediterranean region based on the belief that bees were spontaneously generated from a cow's carcass. By extension, it was thought that fumigation with cow dung was beneficial to the health of the hive. It is possible that Bugonia had more currency as a poetic and learned trope than as an actual practice. The process is described by Virgil in the 4th book of the Georgics. Interesting, right? Correlation. The land of milk and honey. Milk comes from cows and honey comes from bees. Hence the fact that Bugonia puts them together. Wow. Lamentations, no. Ezekiel, yeah. We still in the Old Testament, y'all. Please bear with me. Shout out to Hood Astrologist. But of course, I'm gonna cook. I'm gonna go further. Right? She said milk and honey is also symbolism of the colostrum from the mother's breast. Yes, it is. Right? They call that liquid gold as well. Right? But check it. Taurus and Cancer. Right? Taurus and Cancer. Because bees are associated with Cancer, because the beehive cluster or M44 comes out of the Cancer constellation, right? And then you got Heru dealing with Taurus. You know, you have the what they call Hathor, Temple of Dendora. Bees is deep. I'm might have to write a whole mini pamphlet on the bees. I'm learning so much about them. Ezekiel 7:5, the hour of doom. I will not look on you with pity, nor will I spare you, but I will punish you for ways and for the abominations amongst you. Then you will know that I am the Lord. This is what the Lord says. Disaster, an unprecedented disaster. Behold, it is coming. The end has come. And the end has come. It has roused itself against you. Behold, it has come. Right? So yeah, Taurus can be looked at. It's the bull, it's the Taurus, but it's also Heru. So that's a motherly energy. The cow got 4 stomachs. She's a nurturer. All things come from her. Look at it. Cheese, milk, steak, beef, leather, a lot of stuff. Butter, you know what I'm saying? All kind of stuff. And then Cancer's the mother. Then Virgo's the woman. This thing goes deep, man. Astrology is deep. You know, I feel for people who are caught up in the religiosity of being told, man, that stuff is from the devil. Jeremiah 4:5, announcing Judah, proclaiming Jerusalem, and say, blow the ram's horn throughout the land. Cry out and say, assemble yourselves and let us flee to the fortified cities. Raise a signal flag towards Zion. So why are they blowing the ram? Because the ram is Aries and it leads the zodiac. And the quote unquote children of Israel are the 12 tribes associated with 12 zodiac signs. I mean, I ain't making that up. Feel me? I'm making that up. We can see it. It's laid out for us to see. Turning water to wine is transliteration or decoding, transmuting, breaking stuff down. That's turning water to wine. The water is the literal, and the wine is the transliteration of it. Shout out to my brother 19 Keys. At least that's what he shared with me. And I was like, that, I like that. I can roll with that. Daniel's vision of the 4 beasts, right? This is Daniel 7:5. The first beast was like a lion and had wings of an eagle. I watched until his wings were torn off and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a man and given the mind of a man. Suddenly another beast appeared, which looked like a bear. It was raised up on one of its sides and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. So it was told, get up and gorge yourself on flesh. Next, as I watched, another beast appeared. It was like a leopard, and on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule. So all of this is metaphorical, and you are, free to deep dive and interpret it on your own. I don't have the mental bandwidth right now, right? I have to sit down and go through all of those symbolisms, and I just ain't got it right now. We still in the Old Testament. I'm reserving for the rest of this journey. Right? Sorry. Ezekiel 39:17. And as for you, son of man, this is what the Lord God says. Call out to every kind of bird and to every beast of the field. Assemble and come together from all around to the sacrificial feast that I am preparing for you, a great feast on the mountain of Israel. There you will eat flesh and drink blood. You will eat the flesh of the mighty and drink the blood of the princes of the earth, as though they were rams, lambs, goats, and bulls, all the fattened animals of Bashan. At the sacrifice I am preparing, you will eat fat until you are gorged and drink blood until you are drunk. Chill. Chill, my nigga. When is enough enough? You got a parasite cleanse that goes with that. You know what I'm saying? You sitting up there like the liver king eating all that raw meat. Pause. Whew. Hosea 7:5. Ephraim's iniquity. They are all adulterers, like an oven heated by a baker who needs not stoke the fire from the kneading to the rising of the dough. The princes are inflamed with wine on the day of our king. So he joins hands with those who mock him, for they prepare their hearts like an oven while they lie in wait. All night their anger smolders. In the morning it blazes like a flaming fire. Isaiah 28:7. They also stagger from wine and stumble from strong drink. Priests, that's like Hennessy. Priests and prophets reel from among strong drink, Hennessy, and are befuddled by wine. They stumble because of strong drink, muddled in their vision and stumbling in their judgments. For all their tables are covered with vomit. There is not a place without filth. Nigga, like, what are they talking about here? That sounds like the barns that the European kings used to be in, right? Before the Moors cleaned them up. Amos 7:5. The locust fire and the plumb line. This is what God showed me. The Lord God was calling for judgment by fire and consumed the great deep and devoured the land. Then I said, Lord God, please stop. How will Jacob survive since he is so small? The Lord relented from this plan. It will not happen either, said the Lord God. Numbers 14:13 by Moses. But Moses said to the Lord, the Egyptians will hear of it, for by your strength you brought this people from amongst them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land. They have already heard that you, our Lord, are in the midst of his people, that you, our Lord, have been seen face to face, that your cloud stands over them, and that you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. If you kill this people as one man, the nations who have heard of your fame will say, we know Obadiah ain't got it. Let's go to Jonah. Obadiah is just one verse. Jonah's 4 chapters. Micah might have something for us. All right, Micah, the 7th book, 7:5. Stay alive. Israel's great misery. Micah 7:5. The best of them is like a briar. The most upright. Hold on. Charge this real quick. My bad. Just give me a second. Phone dying. I ain't plug it up. There you go. The best of them is like a briar. The most upright is sharper than a hedge of thorns. The day for your watchman has come, the day of your visitation. Now is the time of their confusion. Do not rely on a friend. Do not trust in a companion. Seal the doors of your mouth from her who lies in your arm. For a son dishonors his father, a daughter rises against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the members of his own household. So ratchetness ain't nothing new, right? Rivals between daughters and mothers ain't nothing new. These things have been taking place in antiquity. Don't make it any better. I'm just saying these seem to be things that people have been wrestling with forever. So have some grace with yourself. That's all I'm saying. Deuteronomy 13:6. If your very own brother or your son or daughter or the wife you embrace or your closest friend secretly entices you, saying, let us go and worship other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known, the gods of the people around you, whether near or far, whether from one end of the earth or the other, you must not yield to him or listen to him. Show him no pity and do not spare him or shield him. That's deep. That's deep. by genius. Like that's deep. I could personally relate to that one right there. Zephaniah. Let's do the Habakkuk. I don't know why I skipped it. Let's see if they got anything for us there. Nope. That's why I skipped it. Zephaniah, I feel like I gotta skip this too. Yep. Let's go to Zechariah. Zechariah got something for us. Zechariah 7:5. A call to justice and mercy. Then the word of the Lord of hosts came to me, saying, ask all of the people of the land and the priests, when you fasted and mourned in the 5th and 7th month for these 70 years, was it really for me that you fasted? And when you were eating and drinking, were you not doing so simply for yourselves? So he's like, are you fasting for me, but indulging for yourself? I'm like, nigga, I definitely ain't indulging for you. You don't drink. I'm sorry. You're like, nigga, I'm fasting because I'm sacrificing. Yeah, this is for you. But all this drinking and eating that I'm doing afterwards, nigga, this for me. You ain't into this. Oh, now you wanna? Now you want to get in on the Thunderbird? Now you want to get in on the night train? I thought you don't do this, God. You know what I'm saying? But here you go, interrupting my thoughts, bombarding my thought process, all up in my mind space. Okay, I'm trying to get into myself. Pause. Trying to get into my own thoughts. You know, close the door on this one, my nigga. It's between me and me. And this bottle, this buckle. Yeah, the spirits in this bottle. Yeah, how about that? Yeah, dualism. Balance my eye. Deuteronomy 17:8. If a case is too difficult for you to judge, whether the controversy within your gates is regarding bloodshed, lawsuits, or assaults, you must go up to the place the Lord your God will choose. You are to go to the Levitical priest and to the judge who presides at that time. Inquire of them, and they will give you a verdict in the case. You must abide by the verdict they give you at the place the Lord will choose. Be careful to do everything that they instruct you. I'm saying? We're in the New Testament, and everything is about to change and become peachy and rosy, and the energy and the language and the aim, everything changes, and you don't hear about God no more. It's all about Jesus. You know what I'm saying? They sound like they went from Africa to Europe. Let's listen. Do not judge. How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye while there is still a beam in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the beam out of your own eye. And they're talking about beams like, you know, like when they be building like beams like this. This is a wooden beam. This is a wooden beam above my head. Right? They're like, you want to take a speck. So a speck of dirt. Right? You want to take a speck of dirt out of your brother's eye. Right? But you got a whole beam in your eye. Why you don't do that first? Why you don't focus on taking the beam out of your eye before you focus on the speck in your brother's eye? You hypocrite. First take the beam out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Do not give dogs what is holy. Do not throw your pearls before swine. We are in the dog days, by the way. This shows that this aligns perfectly cosmologically. Do not give dogs what is holy. Do not throw your pearls before swine. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and then turn and tear you to pieces. Like the feral pigs. Like, yeah, focus on self, save self first. Oh, you a savior? Okay, you got your shit together all the way, and you out here trying to help people? No, you can only help if your cup runneth over. If you are in abundance, energetically, spiritually, or even materially speaking, then you can help. But attempting to pull somebody, you know, out of a ditch that you're standing in, it's not best advice, you know. Mark 7:5. Tradition and worship. And on returning from the market, they do not eat unless they wash. And there are many other traditions for them to observe, including the washing of cups, pitchers, kettles, and couches for dining. So the Pharisees and scribes questioned Jesus, "Why do your disciples not walk according to the tradition of the elders? Instead, they eat with defiled hands." Jesus answered them, "Isaiah prophesies correctly about you hypocrites, as it was written, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me.'" Right. So, beefing with the new ways versus the old ways. You know what I'm saying? Jesus was out of pocket with a lot of things in terms of him not following the discretion according to the narrative. Again, I don't want to get lost in the fact that we're reading a mythos. But at the same time, this just shows you the rivaling of the elders, the changing of the laws. He came to disrupt. He's a disruptor. And the things that he was disrupting or throwing out was the laws, because he came with a new law. And a new covenant denotes the establishment of a new covenant. You throw out the old covenant, right? Hence the fact that they say that, you know, you can't pour new wine into old wineskins. You have to change them completely. So the establishment of a new covenant does away with the old covenant. The covenant that he came to change, according to scripture, is Mosaic law, right? He's doing away with it. And what are Mosaic laws? What are the covenants? Circumcision, right? And it was a dietary thing that he was changing as well. And plus the fact that, these are only God's chosen people because of that. The mark and the evidence of them being God's chosen people was circumcision. He said, "You niggas don't gotta get cut no more." You know what I'm saying? Fuck that foreskin shit. We ain't doing that. Right? So he made Jew and Gentile alike, meaning that they no longer had to get clipped. The faith of the centurion, right? And then he changed the dietary law because he was an herbivore. So he wasn't into the animal sacrifice and the eating of X, Y, and Z. He became the sacrifice. And now you eat him, pause, every Sunday in church, flesh and blood, right? Or the Eucharist, which Paul brought later on. Like, all of this was created out of the mind of a nigga named Paul. First and foremost, like, let's stop just being hospitable, but let's just be real. You know what I'm saying? Christianity was a creation in the mind of Paul for political purposes and reasons. Jesus didn't create Christianity. He didn't create what a Christian is. That was a creation that comes after him in 44 AD by Paul. The faith of the centurion, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful, right? These are known facts. You can literally Google it or ask your chat GPT. Yeah, and he set the ceiling to say you to become Christ-like, a Christian or what have you. But if you are what you eat, you know what I'm saying, then wouldn't you think that the first thing that you do to emulate the person that you're trying to be is you eat like them? You know what I'm saying? Now, I know that he fed fishes to the people, but he never said that he was a pescatarian. He said that he was an herbivore, right? He casted out the swine, but they're eating swine in the basement of every church right now. So who's being Christ-like? Who's holding the covenant? Because it's a new covenant. The faith of the centurion. They came to Jesus and pleaded with him earnestly. This man is worthy to have you grant this, for he loves our nation and has built our synagogue. So Jesus went with them. But when he was not far from the house, the centurion sent friends with the message, Lord, do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy to have you come under my roof. So a centurion is a Roman officer, right? It's a gentry. It's a gentry of the Roman army. That's what a centurion is. How do I know? I used to have the toys. I used to have the toys, centurions. I love those. That was my shit. John 7:5. I used to play with my centurions. Jesus teaches at the feast. For no one who wants to be known publicly acts in secret, right? He's like, you got to put on in public. You got to go viral. Since you are doing these things, show yourself to the world. For even his own brothers did not believe in him. Therefore, Jesus told them, although your time is always at hand, my time has not yet come. Right? That's some slick shit to say to a nigga like, yeah, whatever. You know, I ain't doing what you asking me to do. I'll do it when I want to do it. John 6:666. However, there are some of you who do not believe, for Jesus had known from the beginning which of them did not believe and who would betray him. Then Jesus said, this is why I told you that no one can come to me unless the Father has granted it to him. From that time on, many of the disciples turned back and no longer walked with him. Right? And there's a study and an acknowledgement that even when you get into the book of Thomas, right, or the book of Philip, Thomas means twin, and they said that Jesus was a twin through Diadis, but these are just interpretations, right? Because there is Jesus Christ, there is Jesus, and there is the Christ. These are two different entities, or what have you. And what they initially said is that Judas is just as important as Jesus, because with no Judas, there's no Jesus. So Judas, hence the fact that, you know, the Satanists and everything, they're leaning on certain energies that they feel are just as powerful. Because Thomas is the doubter. You know what I'm saying? Or Thomas is the doubter. Judas, Thomas also means twin, right? And they're saying that he had, but it's also the astrological sign. Judas represents Scorpio, right? So he snaked, quote unquote, Jesus. But it was known that he was going to do this, and he had to allow it to be do such, because without Judas doing what he did, then Jesus couldn't be Jesus. In terms of with the resurrection thing going on, right? So there's a whole pantheon that acknowledges and worships the role that Judas played, you know? Stephen's address to the Sanhedrin, Acts 7:5. So Abraham left the land of the Chaldeans and settled in Haran. After his father died, God brought him out of that place and into this land where you are now living. He gave him no inheritance here, not even a foot of ground, but God promised to give possessions of the land to Abraham and his descendants, even though he did not yet have a child. God told him that his descendants would be foreigners in a strange land and they would be enslaved and mistreated 400 years. So you have this acknowledgement here of the 400 years, and then you got the whole Canaan curse of the 400 years. There's a lot of 400 years promised. You feel me? And melanated people, at least the ones who came here on boats, right? You got here in 1619. Your 400 years was up in 2019 when they came out with critical race theory, and the Christian right lost their minds over that. And they got Trump back in there so quick to be dismissive of CRT. They banned the books and everything, bro. Project 16. Why? Because it dealt with your providence. Your 400 years was up in 2019 and they hit your ass with COVID. And you've been in a spell, you've been in a stupor ever since. And these people is making a run on your providence in front of you and beating the brakes off of you so you can not go nowhere near it. You don't want to have to do nothing with it. And they're running. They're like, yeah, millennial is like the world is gonna end and we're gonna have a Christian theocracy. Like, yo, y'all got the keys to the kingdom back. Did you not understand? Hey, what do I know? Romans 7:5, released from the law. Therefore, my brothers, you also died to the law through the body of Christ, that you may belong to another, to him who has raised from the dead, in order that we might bear fruit to God. For when we lived according to the flesh, the sinful passions aroused by the law were at work in our bodies, bearing fruit for death. But now, having died to what bound us, we have been released from the law so that we serve in a new way of the spirit and not in the old way of the written code. So I don't know how to put one and two together for the people that said I was already here and I ain't come on a boat. I don't know if you the lost tribe. I don't know if you the Canaanites. They said that they was over here too. So maybe we find our commonality as a people in the fact that we shared the curse. And you both been colonized, whether you was over here or you came on a boat. A colonizer hit you over the head and took your shit. It subjugated you. It stole your identity and they cosplaying you. Over here, over there, and over there, right? I don't know. I don't know. 1 Corinthians 15:56. The sting of death is sin and the power of sin is the law. But they don't get none of y'all smoke. All of my social media feeds, my whole timeline yesterday, it sounded like niggas complaining and yo, we ain't free. Slaves wasn't free. I thought y'all wasn't slaves. But how you gonna be foundational? How you gonna be how you gonna be the things that you are, but you're not? How you gonna be in? I'm just starting to get confused, man. Is canceling, like I'm hearing the things that are being said and the things that are not being said by the things that are being said. And if you're Aboriginal indigenous to the land, then who are you trying to contract with to get you getting the land back? You taking the land back? Is the contract up? You know what I'm saying? You're getting penance on the reparations. What you doing? Like, and what name are you doing it in? How can you be black but be indigenous? Lefty. Oh. I gotta finish, y'all. Let me finish this. And I swear I don't want to smoke. I'm not being controversial. I'm not asking because I'm being facetious. I would really love to have a conversation with the thought leaders of the situation. So I could be on point. So I could go outside and talk my shit. So I could represent whoever needs to be represented in the manner in which they should be represented. That's all. I just want our narratives to be consistent, you know. 1 Corinthians 7:5, principles of marriage. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife. Do not deprive each other except by mutual consent and for a time, so you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again so that Satan will not tempt you through your lack of self-control. I say this as a concession, not as a command. You know, I don't know how that's going to hit. Hebrews 13:4, marriage should be honored by all in the marriage bed, kept undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and adulterers, right? So they like, yeah, nigga, can't do threesomes. No threesomes. No threesomes. Right? That's why you always losing when you do the threesome. Somebody's always bouncing and boating and going behind the back to do some other shit. Because yeah. I don't get. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Base. Paul's joy in the Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 7:5. Great is my confidence in you. Great is my pride in you. I am filled with encouragement. In all of our troubles, my joy overflows. For when we arrived in Macedonia, our bodies had no rest, but we were pressed from every direction. Conflicts on the outside, fears within. But God, who comforts the downcast, comfort us by the arrival of Titus. I'm going to keep it moving. Galatians. Nope. Ephesians. Maybe. Nope. Philippians. Nope. Colossians. Nope. Thessalonians. Shoot. Nope. Thessalonians 2. Nope. 1 Timothy. No. 2 Timothy. Come on now. I know we got one in Hebrews. Should I just jump past Titus and Philemon? Yep. I should have listened to my spirit. Philemon only got one book. I knew that. Hebrews 7:5. Let's get it. Come on now. We're almost there. Melchizedek and Abraham. Whew. Heavy hitter. Consider how great Melchizedek was. Even the patriarch Abraham gave him a tenth of the plunder. Now the Lord commands the sons of Levi who become priests to collect a tenth from the people. Oh, nigga, this I gotta stop. This was my signal. This was my signal. Put that cash app up. We're gonna pass some digital plates around. Why? Because if it was good enough for Melchizedek, my ninjas, and that's the high priest, right? Who am I to do anything different? I have to stay in allegiance with scripture. Put that cash app up there and say, yeah, you know, if it is hitting and befitting to where you are financially at, please make a contribution. If not, I ain't gonna look at you no other different type of way. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a labor of love, you know. And you know, we're gonna get our payment. They're gonna cut me a slice from the pie in the sky. Imagine that, right? You hit your landlord with an IOU. Like, yeah, your escrow is in the sky, my nigga. We got all kind of funds. Consider how great Melchizedek was. Even the patriarch Abraham gave him a tenth of the plunder. Now the Lord commands the sons of Levi, who are the priests, who become priests, to collect a tenth from the people, that is, from their brothers, though they too are descended from Abraham. So they like, ain't nobody saved. But Melchizedek, who did not trace his descent from Levi, collected a tenth from Abraham and blessed him who had the promises. So the heavy, deep entrenched, melanated Melchizedek did not come from Babylon. He's not from a Babylonian bloodline of Abraham, right? He's Coptic or of that particular nature and they had to break him off. And he ascended, right? Him and Enoch and Melchizedek, the high priest. Numbers 18:21. Behold, I have given to the Levites all of the tithes in Israel as an inheritance in return for the work they do. The service of the tent of meetings, tabernacle. No longer may the Israelites come near the tent of meetings, or they will incur guilt and die. The Levites are to perform the work of the tent of meetings, and they must bear their iniquity. This is a permanent statute for the generations to come. The Levites will not receive an inheritance amongst the Israelites. So it's like you can get a donation, right? But you niggas shall not ball out, right? Ain't none of that going in your pocket. Get the bread, put it in the envelopes, and then send it upstairs to me, right? Or, keep it on earth and build me some shit. How about that? That's what God was telling them. That's how God was talking to them. Like, you're gonna break me off my boss, but you finna spend none of that on yourself. Let's go to Revelations. Let's close this thing up for the good people in the back. Revelation 7:5. Stay alive. Oh, I think this is a heavy hitter too. Which one is this? Oh, 144,000 sealed. Yeah, this is the heaviest of the heavy hitters. This is where we come from. This is where we taking it all the way home. Hallelujah. Took us 2 hours and 40 minutes to get here. And I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all of the tribes of Israel. From the tribe of Judah, 12,000 were sealed. From the tribe of Reuben, 12,000. From the tribe of Gad, 12,000. From the tribe of Asher, 12,000. From the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000. From the tribe of Manasseh, 12,000. So 12 times 12 is 144. You understand me? And this is the law 44, and I am the God of the law 44. Now I hope I don't get blasphemed and hit with a lightning strike because I said I'm the God of the 44s or the Lord or what have you. I don't want no smoke. I don't want no smoke. I don't want no smoke. Yahweh, I don't want no smoke. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, that's kind of where we at with it. You know what I mean? I don't want to get into all of the super duper metaphysics of what 144 is. I did a whole lecture last Sunday. I kind of don't want to return and repeat that. But I will recommend that y'all check it out. You know what I'm saying? I will recommend that you check it out. But this is just me circling the block and showing and proving that the Bible is a 44 resonator. Jesus is a 44 resonator. The United States is a 44 resonator. All of these things equal either 44 or 144 in their gematria. But the Bible is really built on 144. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, we had an amazing journey. We had an amazing journey today through this particular episode. Had a lot of fun. I appreciated my time here. It was almost 3 hours, but it didn't feel like that. And even if it did, so what? I would rather spend it anywhere else or any other way. You know what I mean? I appreciate y'all. I love your commitment to receive the word, to receive the light, to tap in it, to what it is, that we're sharing. The link for last Saturday, Red has that. I gotta get it from him. I think it might be on his page. I don't be knowing. Red be doing shit. I don't be knowing. I'm sorry. But I'll inquire with him and find out how you could get the link to the Sunday. And that's on me because I told you should check it out, but I don't I don't have the information to direct you to it as well. That's bootleg. I'm sorry. Um, but nonetheless, again, I wanted to say thank you. I do appreciate this. And yeah, until next time, to the next episode, please do not fall for, anybody dangling anger at you. Like I said, we are in Mars and Uranus, right? 3 degrees Gemini. Uranus is sudden and abrupt. Mars is action, it's activity, it's Martian energy, it's Aries energy, it's getting to it. Mars and Neptune, 4 degrees Aries means what? That you just shouldn't have these spiritual visions. You should act upon them as well. You should get active. You should get outside. You should see what's going on. Um, you should say things that's on your heart, right? That you have been holding in, but don't say them in an aggressive, combative way. Think these through. Think things through. Don't be spontaneous and abrupt like Uranus energy. Be calculated. But this is a season of expression as well. You know what I'm saying? Don't crash out, whatever you do. Shout out to my brother International. I seen you on the news, buddy. Right? And I love what you did, bro. And let me say this: love conquers all, right? Regardless of what it is that we're going through, regardless of what it is that we're seeing politically, regardless if you're seeing people marching on Washington with face masks or any of that stuff. Love conquers all. Love for self, love for family, right? Love for your history, love for your ancestry, right? You don't got nothing to prove to nobody. The only time that you should be spending and wasting is on yourself to reaffirm why you love yourself, who you love yourself, and you're surrounded by loved ones, even if they're not physically here. You know, create that energy around you so you can attract them. I'm saying this to say that I saw my brother International P on the news. He was at the precinct when they locked up the people who went up the Empire State Building. So, as New Yorkers, you follow these narratives all the way through. So International got on camera and said that he feels that love conquers all, that this is a classic New York story, right? And it's triumphant. And I feel that they reset the field, they reset the agenda. Empire State Building is an antenna, and they got on the highest part of that antenna, and it was in the spirit of love, right? They ascended that edifice on 33rd Street of all places, and they did a public display of love. I grew up on a movie called Turk 182, and yeah, I've been watching your series, the Muslim and the Jew episodes. I'm gonna check that out as well. International P is one of those friends that only come around once in a lifetime. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if there was native New Yorkers, but they demonstrated in New York. And one thing that people say about New York is that, they're cold hearted, they're not that loving, they're not that open in terms of greeting of one another. But this is a new New York after the Knicks victory, and people's heart chakra has opened. People's heart chakra has opened, and people are now more receptive to being um, friendlier, more congeal. I'm not. That's not the word I'm looking for. They're more receptive to be receptive, and for them going to those heights, to the highest point in New York, and casting a spell of love over the city, showing that people will go to any heights for love, right? People would defy gravity itself, and they will also sacrifice the body to make a statement based on the power of love. I want us to embrace the times that we're in, right? I want us to really appreciate in the midst of everything else that's going on, right? I want us to understand. Look at these indigenous players that are going on the field, what they call the pitch, and they're working their ass off for their country and their flag and the pride of their people. That's love. We're seeing these melanated people get out there on love frequency and play their hearts out around people who don't love them just because of who they are and where they're from, right? Love conquers all. You dig what I'm saying? So, yes, in this season of Cancer, we have to personify, we have to be the people who are love personified. We have to be the crystallization of love. We have to know that that's the strongest frequency. We should not be pulled into anybody else's trick. You can't win a mud fight, my nigga. That's not where we belong. You know, we hover. We're from the cosmos. You know, we go as high as Sirius, the constellation. We are the brightest star in the sky. You feel me? And that star, it emanates light. That light is a planet that emanates a light, and that light is about liberation. It's a liberating light. That light is about independence. That light is about revolution. You know what I'm saying? But a revolution in love. And I'm not telling you to turn cheeks. I'm telling you, put yourself in a position where you won't have to. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying create the force field now. Yeah, we too clean to play in the mud, my nigga. That's not where we belong. You feel me? We are high and above that. You know what I'm saying? We hover and we float way above the mud fights. Allow them people to crash out on their own. You don't be the one falling for none of these tricks. It don't matter what they dangle in front of you. It don't matter what they say on TV. Because they're going to start talking crazy and doing crazy things to prompt you to respond in a way because they already got a solution set up. Don't play their game. You know what I'm saying? Stay in the frequency of love. And if you never known love, if you don't know how to get there, you know, then maybe those are the things that you should be spending a little bit more time with yourself, asking the universe for. This is a wonderful time to pull on the heartstrings of the universe and call on the things that you need to be whole and complete. But at the end of the day, yeah, we all deserve, you know, a trip through this life to feel what love feels like. You know what I'm saying? Open your hearts and receive. You've seen our brother Farrakhan, you know, and his energy of expression of loss. You know what I mean? Undergirding that loss or the pain of losing is really the strength of the love that he had 72 years for that woman that he was with, Queen Mother. Okay? Appreciate y'all. And again, till next time, y'all. Peace.